The member from Kitchener-Waterloo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Speaker, yesterday's fall economic statement does little to address the real issues facing Ontarians. It's nothing more than a distraction. People in Ontario are facing energy bills that they can no longer afford. Life in Ontario is less affordable every day. But instead of stopping the sell-off of Hydro One, Ontarians found out yesterday how well the Liberals' asset sales are going. Basically, they were boasting about the public sale-off of these assets. We now know that the Liberal government is selling off Hydro One to meet the Liberals' promise to balance the books next year on page 48. By broadening Hydro One ownership, the province expects to generate $5 billion to reduce debt. The Financial Accountability Officer has already told us that once the sell-off of Hydro One is complete, it will cost Ontario $500 million every year. Speaker, why does this Premier continue to put the needs of the Liberal Party ahead of the needs of Ontarians?
Question, thank you.
Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite again makes reference to an asset that we are repurposing and actually we are augmenting to provide for greater investments into new assets. The member opposite also talks about the wholesale value of that asset, which does go towards debt and which is done by law. But she fails to mention that there's $4 million in capital appreciation that's being reinvested dollar for dollar through the Trillium Trust to be reinvested into programs and into assets, even in her own riding, Mr. Speaker, in order to achieve a better quality of life for all Ontarians. And at the same time, we're taking steps to reduce the overall cost of hydro through the elimination of the 8% portion of the province's charges. And we also have eliminated the debt retirement charge, another $70 a year that's being benefited to those bills. So, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue on our plan. We're continuing to reinvest dollar for dollar all of those assets so that we can build new assets for the long-term benefit of the people.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister should follow the money because we know from public accounts that the Trillium Trust wasn't used last year. This Premier, if she was actually concerned about Ontario's priorities, she could have proved it yesterday. Instead, we got another distraction from this government. Rather than actually addressing the crisis in affordable housing, the Liberals adjusted real estate transaction costs. A senior Bank of Montreal economist said it would hardly, and I quote, "It would hardly make a dent in worsening housing affordability, and if anything, it just adds more fuel to the housing fire." Yesterday's report describing Toronto as the child poverty capital of Canada pointed to the lack of affordable housing as a key contributor to poverty and inequality. We know that investing in affordable housing is an investment in social justice and makes economic sense. Speaker, can the Premier explain why her fall economic statement did not address the affordable housing crisis in the province of Ontario?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me correct my record. Of course, I meant $1 billion in new investments for the people of Ontario as a result of the work we're doing. But the member opposite doesn't feel that a doubling of a rebate to young families who are starting to buy into their new home matters little to them. And $4,000, Mr. Speaker, does help, as well as the work we're doing to increase childcare spaces for young families, Mr. Speaker, as is our ability to provide free tuition to many students who are entering the education system so that they're not burdened by debt. All of these efforts are designed to help those young families get started, Mr. Speaker. In fact, because of the work we've done on this side of the House, we're also helping them with retirement security in the future, all of which requires us to be diligent and assemble some of these programs. It's not one item in particular. It's all of them combined that are enabling us to provide for greater service and greater help for our young families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.